The next call is a split call. Julianne Genter, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous member asked, what is the alternative vision from opposition parties? He said he hadn't heard it. So I would like to use my speech to lay that out. Obviously, this bill, the supplementary estimates, is about the additional appropriations that have been made since the budget 2015 was finalized. An example of that is the $150,000 that the government appropriated for the Sherwin inquiry. That was the government inquiry into foreign trust disclosure rules, which of course was released very recently and demonstrated that there were serious shortcomings with our foreign trust rules that, of course, the opposition party had been calling for constructive changes. And in fact, many of the recommendations in the Sherwin inquiry go further than what opposition parties were suggesting. And the government was denying there was a problem. Like most New Zealanders, I'm here because I love New Zealand. I love our natural environment, and I want to live in a country that is fair, where everyone has a fair go. What has the national government achieved through their 8 budgets, including this supplementary estimates bill? Well, we finally got a narrow surplus this year, just a couple $100 million. And aside from that, we've seen them achieve a mastery of spin in the media. They've also achieved more expensive houses, especially in Auckland, all over the country, more people living on the streets or sleeping in their cars, more pollution, 60% of our rivers now unswimmable. Carbon emissions are up, and I note that in the supplementary estimates bill, there's actually an additional $115 million to subsidize carbon polluters. $115 million on free carbon credits for polluting industries. There's more inequality. Just released today, we've got information from Statistics New Zealand that the top 10% of New Zealanders now own 60% of the wealth. That doesn't seem fair. In fact, it's at its worst point that it has been for a decade. And of course, that is not going to change under this national government, because ultimately they are gutless and focused on protecting the status quo. Well, I have a message for the national government. You know, budgets are all about priorities, what we choose to spend money on. And Mr. Scott was asking, oh, who's going to pay for these things that you want, like education and houses and the things that people actually need? Well, we're not going to spend as much money as they do helping out their mates. We're not going to spend as much on tax cuts for the wealthy, because you don't build a strong economy by helping those who are already doing very well. You do it by investing in your people, the ones who actually need the most help. We're not going to spend it on Saudi sheep deals. We're not going to spend it on subsidies for polluters. We're not going to spend it on Sky City or Rio Tinto or Chorus. We're not going to spend it on infrastructure that doesn't stack up economically. The national government is focused on dams like the Rui Taniwha Dam, which doesn't even make sense in economic terms, let alone in environmental. And it's the same with the transport infrastructure. They've managed to find billions and billions of dollars for motorway projects that won't reduce congestion. They won't make it easier for people to get to work, to get to school, and they certainly won't do anything for our carbon emissions and pollution. There are smarter ways to do things. We could take the same amount of money and spend it on making sure that kids aren't hungry in schools. We could spend it on protecting our environment and having a transport system that actually makes it easier for people to get around. Imagine that. Imagine a rail link to the airport or to the North Shore. We could actually do that for less than the idiotic motorways that they are prioritizing. Mr. Speaker, a strong economy, as I said, isn't achieved by privileging those who are already doing well and giving handouts to businesses that are already making money by screwing over the environment. Actually, a strong economy is developed by protecting our environment and investing in our people. And that's why we in the Green Party would prioritize affordable housing, smart infrastructure that reduces pollution, smart infrastructure that uses our water better in our cities and creates more people-friendly streets. There are so many things that we can do, and we've shown how we can pay for it. And that is the kind of New Zealand that I think most New Zealanders would like to live in.
Cool.